Hi everyone and welcome to the Bison video blog. One Fargo Big E joins me. The man who wears the crown, who has the pick'em, he beat me again this week, is not here. Is he out celebrating? What's going on?
This King Kolpak thing is really getting to his head. I think he's like golfing or something today. So he wins the pick'em 1 week and he thinks
2 weeks now. He's won it 2 weeks. I was all set. I was all going to be conciliatory to him. You know, you're a great FCS mind. Gone. Dunzo.
That guy has no humility.
I guess
Zero.
not.
Zero humility. That's all I know.
Well, I have to tap into your great FCS mind to get us ready for South Dakota State, North Dakota State. The Dakota marker back on the line as the Bison will try to win the Rock for the 7th straight year. They've won 8 straight in this series, Big E. And this Jacks team, we're going to talk about in a second, is not like the one we've seen over the last 5 to 6 years. But what is it? You've seen all these matchups over the last 5 years. Why is it that NDSU has owned this game against the Jacks?
It comes down to they've owned the line of scrimmage, whether it's the offensive line moving South Dakota State after the ball, whether it's guys like Greg Menard, Kyle Emanuel, some of these recent pass rushers getting after the quarterback. And even when South Dakota State had Zach Zenner stopping the run, when SDSU was a run team, they're able to stop the Jacks from moving the ball on the ground, with the exception of a game or two.
Right.
Now, like we said earlier, this is not your father's South Dakota State Jackrabbits.
They come in 3-2 off a big win on Saturday at Southern Illinois, where both teams combined for 1,100 yards. It was like a Big Sky game broke out as they won 45-39. The Jacks are averaging 45 points per game. They're allowing an average of 36 a game. So they're scoring a ton, but they're also giving up a ton so far this year.
And it's just, like you said, you look at their stats, it reminds you more of an Eastern Washington team than an SDSU team. And here you see Taryn Christian, and this is where they're different. Quarterback, they're really dynamic
and they got
quarterback.
That guy.
Well, he's been there for a few years now, but Taryn Christian's given him that dual threat quarterback, which Coach Chris Kleiman talked about in their press conference today. If you're a college football team and you're explosive, you need that dual threated quarterback. And where NDSU's been hurt a little bit early in the season, Eastern Washington, Gabe Gubru to get out of the pocket, make a play downfield. Early in the Illinois State game, Jake Colby did the same thing. They're able to contain him. So it's not only you have to get after the quarterback, NDSU is going to have to be disciplined with how they rush the passer so they don't let Taryn Christian get outside the pocket and get those big plays downfield.
Now, Winnicky was at a spot last year heading into the Bison game. He was playing at just astronomical level. He still was an All-American, but his season tailed off after C.J. Smith and the Bison secondary shut him down. C.J. Smith's not there. It's Jalen Ellison's job to shut down Winnicky. Where does he rank among the wide receivers the Bison have already seen this year? Obviously, Cup didn't play the whole game. Vandenberg, I thought, was really good from Iowa, and now here's another one coming up the park.
He's right in that conversation. He's up there. They're all a little bit different. Winnicky maybe a little bit longer and taller than some of those guys. Better at the jump ball situation, although Cooper Kupp's pretty good when the ball's thrown up. But we talked about this before we went on air here, Dallas Goedert at tight end. I think that's what makes him more dangerous. Sure, you can go double Jake Winnicky, but now you have a tight end up the middle, Dallas Goedert, who's had some highlight plays so far this year to deal with. So I think that's what makes their passing game a little more electric. You have the dual threat of Taryn Christian, you have Jake Winnicky, and you pair him with Dallas Goedert. So there's a lot of things going on that you have to contain.
This is an emotional week for the Bison football team. Chris Kleiman alluded to it at his press conference earlier today as the team is dealing with the death of Paul Morlock, Chase's dad, who passed away on Saturday. I was at the benefit for Paul on January. There were 1,200 people there within the first hour. This is a well-respected family in the Moorhead community. And you could see it on Saturday. Obviously, the Bison were trying to just find a way to win the game without a fullback in there. Now with this added emotional deal, and you asked Chris Kleiman, how do you think that's going to affect the team as they head into Saturday's game?
And his answer is it's day by day.
Yeah.
He said there's no coaching 101 to tell you to teach you how to deal with something like this. And he said, Chase will come back to the team, or football will be here when Chase is ready.
Yeah.
So it's just a day-by-day thing. We don't know how this week's going to play out. And, when you deal with something like this, a tragedy like this, it's just every person's different. So I don't think there's a set way of how this goes out. But like you said, just a tough thing for the Bison team to deal with.
And it's football is secondary to whatever the Bison are dealing with this week as they try to get prepared for the South Dakota State team.
Press conference today. He started the first, opening statement, 15, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it was, saying, family comes first, whether it's your family at home and the secondary extended family of the football team they have. So it was an emotional start to the weekly press conference this week.
And this is an emotional game. I mean, obviously you throw in everything in there that's a trophy game, and this is the only trophy game that NDSU has, even though they should have one with Northern Iowa. This is it with South Dakota State. And the Jacks, this is now the second recruiting class. They don't know any wins against NDSU. They've lost, as I mentioned, 8 straight in this series and try to turn the momentum. And if it's either been a big play, it's been Carson Wentz to R.J. Urzendowski, or it's been Wentz running for a 20-yard touchdown or 27-yard touchdown he had in Brookings last year, or a huge defensive play, it's been one thing that the Jacks just have not been able to overcome, and they need to have that play to somehow find a way to win here in Fargo on Saturday.
Well, if you look at the offense, it looks like they have the
got
playmakers to make
yeah.
that play. The question is, will their defense hold up?
Right.
Because while they are scoring a lot of points, you look at the stats, they're giving up, 36 a game.
Yeah.
Rushing yards, they're giving up more than 200 a game, which isn't good when you're facing an offense that's averaging about 240, whatever, in that range a game for NDSU. So to me, if SDSU is going to come in on Saturday and have a chance to win, they are going to need a very strong performance from their defense. Because I think their offense is going to make some plays.
I think so too. The other game that's a massive one on Saturday, Northern Iowa at Youngstown State. And here we are again with you and I in the middle of October saying they pretty much got to run the table because they still have games with Western and both the Dakota schools. Obviously, they lost at USD on Saturday. I don't know if they can afford another slip-up right now. They're 2-3, and I know they have that FBS win, but man, what they still have to go, if they lose on Saturday, I don't know what's left for them.
Well, you go in that 4-loss range, you may sneak in.
You can still get in.
But you're putting yourself in the hands of the committee.
Right. Quality losses again.
When you're on the bubble, I just don't think you can complain when you're on the bubble. And if they get to 4 losses, they're going to be on the bubble. And it was a tough loss. Losing at South Dakota is a very tough loss. And especially that Eastern Washington game.
That one's going to come back to hurt them.
If they could have pulled out that game with FBS win, a quality win at Eastern Washington, the lose USD gives them a little margin for error.
Right.
That margin for error is gone now.
You look too. Youngstown looks for real. They win on the road. I know Illinois State's struggling. They get this one Saturday. I've marked that game in early November. That's the game to watch when Youngstown comes here to Fargo.
Well, now we're hitting the meat of the order.
Yeah.
This is like positioning. These next 3 weeks are positioning. NDSU, if they can find a way to beat South Dakota State on Saturday, they put themselves in a pretty good spot with the Youngstown game on the horizon. But now you're playing for not only winning the Valley, but where are you going to fit in the playoff seeding? So these games become ultra important the further you get into the season here.
Lost in this, Biggie. The Bison enter Saturday's game with a 14-game win streak. That's already the second longest in conference history, next to the 33-game run they had that ended in November of 2014. It's just remarkable. They just continue to click off wins here as they get ready for another marker game.
You get all the nerd stats.
I'm trying. I'm doing my best.
I know Kopak wouldn't sit around and work on nerd stats. He's too busy. He's probably getting a pedicure today.
He's polishing the crowd.
Well, it's here. He can't be polishing it.
He might come back on Saturday to join Biggie and I for our coverage on Dakota Marker Saturday. South Dakota State, NDSU with a 2:30 kickoff. Full coverage this week at Inform.com, WDAY.com, leading up to the game on Saturday. We'll see you guys then.